Mike's alive.
Sebastian will I mute my mic with the computer? Yeah. Sebastian will I mute my mic? Stop being the video.
Echo.
Sure. I can just close
I
that
didn't
window.
realize the room was that big. Took a long time getting back.
Yeah, it did. And go long way.
Start the video.
Start the video. All right. My camera.
No, you have to switch to the. Yeah. The email. I can hear you, but
How,
can't.
Sebastian, we should
We're upside
be
down.
falling from the ceiling right now, my friend. That would be, there we go. Okay, I think so.
Double check the linking here, let's see if that's on the correct side.
It only took 2 minutes to get the technology squared away tonight. We're making headway, so. Welcome to this regular meeting of the Montoursville Area School District Board of Directors on this Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. The time is 7:02 p.m. The first item actually of business for us this evening will be to appoint the temporary secretary. That will be Jessica Reich. So I would take a motion to appoint her as temporary secretary tonight.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Jessica, welcome as our secretary this evening. With that, then, since she's been sworn in, we'll ask her to take a roll call.
Mr. Albert,
Here.
Mr. Badger is not present. Dr. Barry. Here. Dr. LeCrone,
Here.
Dr. Mathers. Here. Mr. Schimmel.
Here.
Mr. Snell,
Here.
Mr. Ulmer.
Here.
And Mr. Young is not present.
With that, then, I invite everybody present to rise and pledge the flag with me. With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic. Okay, our next item of business is recognitions and presentations. Now, we do have a presentation in a little bit, but this would be other recognitions and presentations. Is there anything in particular? And I'm going to go to our student representative, and there's nothing from him, of course, tonight. So he must be in the play next door. Okay, all right. Then with that, we'll move on to the reading of the minutes, and we have the regular meeting of February 14 and the work session of February 28. I would make a note as far as a correction. I noticed that the February 14 meeting in the heading, it says special meeting, not regular meeting. That's just a, typographical. So that should be corrected to read regular meeting. The 14th. Other than that, anybody else see anything else that needed corrected, amended, etc.? If not, make a motion to approve the minutes as presented with that one correction.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, moving now to our prior presentations, and Pastor Leyland is under the weather tonight, so he won't be with us. So we'll move on now to Megan Alderbando, and she's going to show us some interesting things about the drone grant that we received. Good evening.
That if technology works, it will be fabulous.
If I made it, you can make it.
True. Especially since that's my job, I guess. So the reason why I thought I would bring this in Part of it is, I'm not gonna lie, it's a requirement. So it's required for the state grant that we got. It's called Build Fly Code. That's why on the agenda it says BFC. It was a state funded grant and it was in conjunction with a.
Okay.
My drone's not in there, but it was in these great kits, all the pieces. Thank you. All these pieces, there were motors, there were propellers, there were propeller protectors that are poles. There were even eye protection, thank you, for each of the students. So we got these very nice kits. It came with 15 student kits and 3 kits for the educators. There is a lot of professional development involved. It's been a 2-year process. We started this last fall. And the ELA team, or the LEA team, excuse me, was me as the ambassador, which is why I'm here. It started out with Cody Pavlik, but when he moved to the high school, we brought on Jess Stoffer. So she got thrown into the mix, and Steph Beadle started at the middle school, but then as moving, she went through all the training, but when she moved, obviously we had to keep this at the middle school since that's where they were. But the kids are really great. The original plan was for the students to build the drones and take them apart. I don't know if you know anything about drones, but these are educational drones. So educational drones are not as sturdy as like the ones that you would buy on your own. They do a lot of crashing. We had lots of crashing. Mr. Napo knows my little tickets for them to get them out of our library trees. They were very entertained by that. Sometimes they couldn't even find them when they got stuck in different places. So that was pretty exciting for the students and things like that. But I wanted to show you that and just go through briefly a presentation of what they've learned, because this grant was probably close to over $6,000 in material plus additional professional development that we're just finalizing now. So I just want to go through some of the highlights and some of the things that what we started with. So Sebastian, do I have to continue to do this over and over? Okay. No. Count me in. Failed to cast. Okay. So I would like to be, well, not there, but the one before that. So I'll just continue on. So the first year, I was still teaching science full time, and we had moved part of my classes to Mr. Lynn. And so I decided to take some of his opportunities, some of his time, and we just did a pull-out program for 2 of his sections, because I was still teaching science, running the library, but I wanted to start with these drones with these students. So the first year we did 2 sections of 8th graders. The second year, in the position that I'm in now, we have all the 8th graders got to the experience the For the Win drones robotic. And so one of the reasons why I got the drones and I get the robots and I do all the things, you can do coding on a screen all day long, but you don't even understand where it's going or what it can do until you're coding and doing computational thinking with an actual object. So we wanted to take it off the screen, because the elementary schools do on-screen coding where all they're doing is coding something on the screen to do something. Now we've got an object, now we've got something flying in the air, so we can take that functionality and move it into drones. Yeah. What am I doing wrong here, Sebastian? Okay. Glad we're doing it this way then. Oh, look at that. So one of the things that we want to make sure is we had equity and access. We were very disappointed the very first year that we could only do 2 classes. My other classes, believe me, I heard about it a lot, that they didn't get to fly the drones. So I alleviated that this year since everyone got that opportunity. The big thing is a lot of encouragement for students. Coding is hard. Computational thinking is hard, especially when they haven't had that all the way up. Hopefully with that, with our CES and our STEM component, with Stephanie Beadle in the elementary schools full time now. I'm at the middle school. We're kind of working our way up into the high school to kind of have that longevity and have it not be so frustrating for them. And a lot of times, obviously, if you've been into the middle school library, It's a really large space, which was great for flying drones. Lots of obstacles to go around in addition to ones that I added myself. But there's some off-task behavior. So it really helped that we had other teachers in there with them. You just have to continue offering encouragement. We also wanted to make sure that we applied UDL. If you're not familiar with UDL, I know Mr. Tormina is, as we have current training this year on universal design of learning. And we wanted to make sure that we increase access to students. So we want to make sure that more and more students get access to the drones and to any of the grant funded materials that we get through the PA and PA Smart. So the hard part that I think that we started with was building the drones. Like I said, the drones came in these baggy type pieces that fell over the floor, like different motors, propellers, different pieces that the students all had to put together. The screws to put them together were microscopic, and I'm sure whoever vacuumed the library after we built them, I heard lots of ching to get them all up. So we did a lot of goal setting, because once they built that, if they didn't build it correctly, it didn't fly. And that was part of the process. So they had to figure out why it wouldn't fly and how to take it apart and put it back together and figure it all out. I did one group where they had to take it apart and another group had to build it. And then our parts started breaking down. So after that, I just kept them together, because I would love to have all the students rebuild them, because that's a learning component in itself. But the parts were starting to break down, the screws start stripping. A lot of the propellers get ruined because instead of taking them off carefully, the tools provided, they're middle schoolers, so they want to they know everything and they'll do it all themselves. So we want to keep, cultivating that there's a balance between following directions and figuring it yourself. So we wanted to make sure that through the UDL, we want to make sure they internalize how they're doing this, because again, that high frustration and the fun of just watching drones and seeing them smash into the bookshelves. I didn't love that part. They did. But we also, it was really overstimulating for some students. Some students had a really hard time with this activity, because it's a lot of motion, it's a lot of movement, it's a lot of commotion. And so it's really hard to concentrate on your own project, because there are students all over the place, drones flying all over the place. And so they wanted to make sure that we kind of make sure you could internalize and you're focusing on your task. So of course we had some stakeholders. We did this in conjunction with IU17, our local blast unit. We are hoping at some point we can have a connection for some local industry. I was talking to Charlie that we're hoping to have Gary Beadle come in, because he's one of the drone flyers for the state police, to come in and talk to the students and see how there is application for this and how flying a drone can turn into a career and what it can do for you. And also the natural gas industry, they use drones to kind of survey and things like that. So we really want to expand this program, hopefully, to make it a much better program for us. So again, our program objective was to bring that block-based coding into real world coding, not just on a screen. All the students got to learn all the parts, all the fancy language, because of course in flight, there's all kinds of different language that we use, and they would forget that language. And when I would ask them to do something, they would kind of think about it and then ask somebody else and then ask me again, what does that even mean? So they were able to do all kinds of forces of flight, parts of planes, parts of drones, and kind of put that all together in addition to the coding. So we're hoping that this continues as part of my schedule, that I can continue to implement in the 8th grade. The students really like it. And they kind of have that looking forward to, like all my other students from 5 through 7, like, well, when do we get to do that? And I said, well, when you're in 8th grade, because then I'm sure you won't fly into my head on purpose. Not that that hasn't happened, but it's gotten really close. It's like, get out of here. So I gave them, these are just some examples for you. I gave them some flight challenges. So with the drone, we start them off. They want to have a good time and they want to just fly them. So use an iPad. We have an app where they learn controls to do all kinds of flight maneuvers. And we do them with obstacles. So this one is where they had to go around a bookshelf, under an arch, land on a specific circle just by flying it. And then that moved on to code challenges, where they had to determine how to, just with the drone, and code it by pressing one button and it do the things that I asked them to do, to take off, flip, do all kinds of funky stuff, and then land. So they had some of those. Then, in addition to flying the obstacles, they had to actually code the obstacles. So they had the good time of just maneuvering them like a video game, because they're all really good at that. Flying, they were super good at, because they're all gamers. So they could do the flying really well. But then they had to fly through rings and under arches and books and to their peers. But let's run away. Come back to me. Here we go. Some of the things that we did is we made sure the students were in pairs. So we did paired programming, modeling, all kinds of learning sessions and stations, because different people were at different placements. And so we just wanted to make sure we broke up the task, because of the high, at the very end, we had high frustration, because it is more difficult than it meets the eye. I have a couple of videos, they're very short, but they're cute. And I have definitely learning experiences, because we have obviously a success and then a challenge. And I don't remember which is which, so it'll be fun for you. So this one, they had to code it off of the bookshelf and get through two rings at different heights. And then they had to land it on a circle. And this looked like it was really easy, but it took them probably, I don't know, 25 tries. So this one must be our challenge. And this student apparently thinks that if you walk alongside it, it will do that. So he's going across the library and wanted to clear the bookshelf, but didn't. But that's okay. We could find that one at least. So obviously there's some challenges and there's some successes. They really like to see their codes working. They like their sense of they like, if they got it, they're high-fiving, they're cheering, they're all excited, you know, because it took so long to get some of the challenges. There's high engagement. No one was bored. They were frustrated, but no one was bored. We really wanted to make a connection with the drones and STEM careers. Obviously, I said, you know, this isn't the, but as we know, a lot of factory positions that used to be fantastic, especially in this area, is moving on, and they're becoming computerized. And so they're not hiring people to do the jobs, they're hiring people to code and maintain the machines that do the job. So it can go into something else. We wanted to make sure that we continue to encourage students in that area. What was hard for me, limited time. I see the students one day a cycle. So they did this once every 6 days, and we did it for as long as we could before we had to move on to other projects. So of course, limited time and taking turns with less drones. Our resources were stretched thin, because when a drone's down, I have to tell you, Jess Stoffer was my drone mechanic. So when they crashed and burned to the point where I was managing the class, she would be sitting there with her tools and trying to fix all the drones. So she was my drone wizard and trying to get them back in flight. But if you have drones out of flight, you have drones, you don't have drones for students. So that became a difficulty. We obviously wanted to keep the frustration level down. We took some calm and code breaks for certain students that it was too much in that room, or they could go into a quiet room and do their coding and then come back into the chaos to try it out, because we wanted to make sure they had those strategies. So we're looking towards some next steps. We want to keep implementing this program, whether it be grant funded. This grant expires, obviously, but whether it be grant funded or part of the budget, but we want to continue making improvements. Jess had some really good ideas for implementing the drones with her physics lessons, because obviously if we're doing forces of flight, it's going to be something that she could implement as well. We want to have them more experienced, younger. I was doing really elementary stuff with these drones, but they're capable of doing more. So if they have more coding experience as they move up through to 8th grade, or even we can push this down eventually, we can do more things with this. So we want to just keep the involvement of science teachers for that application step. And hopefully, maybe even the students start building obstacle courses. Maybe that's something that they can do in another class or a design class or something like that, where it's not just me figuring out within a library, how can I get them to work on drones? Some of our concerns and support, as I said, we have 15 student drones, 3 teacher drones, lots of students have flown this, replace propellers, all things like that. But obviously everything that breaks has to be fixed. All the motors that get burnt out because students are flying them as fast as they can into the bookshelf. But so these things is the sustainability of the materials. So we're trying to figure out how we can use this grant as a stepping stone, but still continue that maintenance. Because lots of crashes, lots of stripping, if we're crashing, they're definitely bending and we have propellers going in all different directions. So it's pretty much how do we deal with repairs in time allotted? How do we keep up with the materials and how can we build a budget for those spare parts and drone replacements? And of course, we want to keep expanding computer science and STEM at Charlottesville Area School District. We're hoping that this could expand and still continue to be a tool because that's what it is. It's not a curriculum within itself. It's a tool to build on our curriculum. And we want to keep building confidence in computer science and growth mindset. Whereas it doesn't have to be perfect the first time. You can try it again, keep going. What can you do with this? What's another application you can do with this that we can beyond just one grade level, beyond just me in one class? How can we use this somewhere else and get that sustainability? And possibly the kids would get really interested in drone competitions, whether it be in-house or I know in the area, I've talked with other folks that have like multi-school drone competitions with clubs and things like that. Like it could become one of those things that's another outlet for our students to get interested in getting excited to come to school. And I have a program if you want to see it run. That was a yes in my book. Silence. Silence is yes. At least if you're a teacher, silence is yes. Whoops. It's never started on a slanted surface. That doesn't work. And I'm glad some of the pieces come right back together. I did this on. Say don't do this. Let's see if it will work now. Be careful, Mr. Tremaine. Nope, my propeller. You're not going to get to see it because when it crashed and burned, my propeller stopped working. So sorry, everybody. That was my error. But now you can see the frustration of my students in my classroom. No, it's not going to go. I was hoping, but it's not going to go because when I crashed it. But that's the one of the sustainability pieces that if you have this, I can change it out in a few minutes. The students, it takes a little bit longer because they have to figure out, well, is it the motor or is it the propeller? So they try propeller. If it's not the propeller, then they have to start taking apart the body of the drone in order to take on a motor and exchange the motor, reconnect the motor and get that all started. So this seems like some little silly thing like, oh, it fell and now it doesn't work. But this happened hundreds of times. And it's good because that's going to happen. You're going to have failure, you're going to have to learn. So I just wanted to show you, I was hoping to show you a drone, but this is actually better because you can see that frustration just in that little fall, all it took because it was taken off back there. So, but I appreciate your time. I know I'm over my 5 minutes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Becky?
Okay.
Actually, I do have a question.
Yeah.
No, when you say you're programming them, coding them, are you like they programming coordinates or like you're putting in, it's going to fly X distance and then it's going to drop a certain elevation? What kind of things are you plugging into it?
You can do logic and things like that with variables. Right now, what my students were doing is mostly like, so they would time it out how far they would have to go and how fast they would have to go. and they could do different elevations, but it was more in timing at this point. Because all of my students are mixed groups, and so some of them, they would understand coordinates, and some of them wouldn't, and with seeing them one day a week, I couldn't teach them coordinates, so we stuck with time and power percentage.
Seat of the pants.
But trial by fire sometimes.
What computer language is that done in?
They do block-based in this. The end of the year after this, because they tell me how easy coding is after we do this. We are going to start just some free Python coding, because that's, to me, that's easiest for younger kids to understand the Python. And so the text-based coding will be the next thing. And what I'm hoping is, as this progression evolves, that I'll be able to do text-based coding earlier. Right now, they're doing really well with block-based, and they do it with different things, with different types of robots. They do the block-based, and they start figuring out and doing more coordinates, and they do more like with the Vex robots. That's a whole different thing, because that's on the ground, they're not flying. And but it will be very interesting to see when they miss a comma.
Yeah.
And then it's not quite as easy. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Now to the public comment section of the meeting. Residents and taxpayers can comment on matters of concern, official action, or any deliberation before the board. Public will be provided one unpaused 3-minute time frame, and you step up to the microphone, let us know who you are, where you're from, and
Jack Callahan, Arch Street and Tourism. I'd just like to see the school put sign out on Broad Street for high school, elementary school, and middle school. So people can, because I'm down street lots of times, people are coming into Handy Mark or whatever, asking how do you get to, say, the high school, or how do you get to the middle school? You know, and I think, you know, coming down Broad Street, there could be 3 signs. And maybe on both sides of the sign, arrows pointing to where the street is, to where these schools are. With that, there's something to be done that's worthwhile doing. And I'd like to know how far about volleyball, how's that going? Volleyball.
Todd is heading that discussion up with administration. He's not here tonight, so I'm not sure what's.
Okay, and I'd like to know if anybody's looking into wrestling for girls. Useville had 2 matches down there. I mean, they had to bring in other wrestlers to balance out, so they had a full program. If they had 2 matches, I guess it's fairly successful. I don't know anything about it, you know. I mean, I don't know, but they have 100 schools with 100. Useville like 78 or 75 now, as towards 100 needed to make it a PIA sport. It is now an official PIA sport again. It is. So I'd like to see that looked into too. And I know I put into the newspaper. Been successful, and it seems like the men wrestling coaches, the high school, go along and they're all for it, to women to, you know, wrestle, maybe work out during the week with the same, you know, with the men and for that stuff. Yeah. I'd like to see us look into it. Wouldn't hurt.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hi, Sharon Meyer, Fairfield Township. Mine's more of a question, comment type thing. So one, I was glad to see under the board rules that the additions to the agenda was crossed out, that it could be added in real time while at a meeting. I did have one question, because the one part that was that section 3 was added, but the one question I did have was, on here, it says what else is crossed out is at the same time the agenda is provided to each school director, an agenda containing the appropriate attachments shall be posted to the district's publicly accessible website, which would be 3 days prior. And it seems that now the agenda won't be posted to the website until 24 hours prior. And I guess that was my question on why that changed.
I can't really give an answer as to why that changed. Dan, do you have?
It may have been fat fingers. Yeah, it just went too far on the deletions.
Because it's in two separate paragraphs. It's under section 1, agenda preparation. So it would be the last sentence is crossed out. That says at the same time, the agenda is provided.
They're on first readings. We can bring them.
Hence, I brought it up. That's all I had. Thanks.
If there's nobody here, we'll move now to the internet, and any of the folks that have joined us online would the Zoom module, raise your hand, and I will click on your hand, and I guess it'll let you speak to us. So we're going to find that out, I hope, sometime. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands being raised. We'll move on now then to close out this portion of the meeting, public comment section, and move on to the business manager's report. And Jessica, do you have anything in the way of a report, or are you ready to move to the items, or what's your plan?
I don't have anything as a report.
As a
now,
report,
so
okay.
I'm good to move to the item.
Okay,
So you have received copies of the treasurer's report for the period ending on February 28th of 2023 for the general fund and cafeteria fund. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration for approval.
move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Any budgetary transfers?
There are no budgetary transfers, and you have received copies of the listing of invoices for the general fund and cafeteria fund for the period ending March 14th, 2023. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration for approval and payment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
Yes, I have a few, but. Check number 64561 on page 25, Pittsburgh Stage Incorporated. For 26,700, what funds are paying for this bill?
Grant from the Montoursville Foundation.
Okay, I don't know whether, okay. The next check number 64588 from page 29, Asset Works USA Incorporated for $1,848. It's an annual fee for Asset Max web-based application. What is this and what is this program used for?
I don't know that one.
I need to get verification, but I'm pretty sure it was, she had said something about having to extend the subscription because we haven't been able to complete the conversion over. But I'd have to find out.
For technology. So for
I
time.
think it's for the Tyler, but the Asset Works is the old one that's going to be expiring,
Okay.
and we just haven't, the merge has not happened.
We're holding the subscription.
So we can finish the,
Old CSIU.
I think it's, yeah, so it's finishing the transition, but you can't, you have to do the full subscription to be able to continue using the program.
64595 off of page 30. EduTech Solutions LLC for $3,985. What is the 1.5?
So the last few years since we went 1-to-1 to manage our Chromebooks and iPads, we've been using an existing library system that was to save us from having to purchase something originally. But that system is designed to manage books and is not. So this is going to take our devices out of the library system and put them in a system that's actually designed to manage them. The full cost there is including the one-time setup fees that I was able to work into budget funds this year. Annually, it's a fee of, I think, 1,900. That,
And that will be a yearly fee?
yes, they're 1,900, I think 1,950. That's not the whole 798.
Okay, and the last question I have is for check number 64600 off of page 31, Invention Land LLC. I see that we already paid 30,000. And this check is for 70,000. Which means after this check's paid, we'll have paid 100,000 and we have a balance left of 100,000. Written on the invoice was that Pennsylvania Smart Advancing Grant 2 was paying for that. Are they paying for the full 200,000?
Yeah, that's the $500,000 STEM grant we got.
Okay.
Invention Land is primarily, they provided some curriculum. I don't know if, Megan's still here. You can correct me when I get this wrong. They provided some curriculum training that's been implemented at the middle school. The bulk of their work, we are doing STEM labs at Leiter and Loyalsock Valley. When we first looked at it and applied, not knowing what was going to happen with the buildings, we were putting our focus on Leiter for that STEM lab. What we've done now, and I think we've discussed this before, what we've done now, we've adjusted and each school is getting an equivalent amount of that money to do STEM labs at both schools. So they're going to get equal coverage, they're really cool. The labs, the designs. So they're designing it, they're going to install. That's what Invention Land is primarily doing. Yeah.
And I dug out when we paid the 30,000, we had an attachment that explained what Invention Land was, and I did check that out, but I was kind of concerned, and you eased my mind there where I was concerned that the only ones benefiting would have been Leiter. But you eased my concerns on that, and you also eased my concern that it's fully covered by that grant.
Yeah, once the decision was made to kind of just wait and watch enrollment numbers. I believe we divided it evenly. I think it's 100,000 of each building. So they're getting, really, they're gonna have the same experiences for STEM education. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
If there's no more questions on the presentation of bills, I'll ask Secretary to call the roll on that.
Mr. Albert,
Yes.
Mr. Badger is not here. Dr. Barry,
Yes.
Dr. LeCrone,
Yes.
Dr. Mathers,
Yes.
Mr. Schimmel,
Yes.
Mr. Snell, Mr. Ulmer,
Yes.
and Mr. Young is not here.
And item D there, business, nothing to add to the.
No, there's nothing more to add.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Then we'll move on now to the superintendent's report. In the way of that report, we will go around the room and hear what our administrators have to offer this evening. And Mr. Johnson, we'll start off with you again.
Well, we're still in the throes of trying to get scheduling around, and that's. We'll see how we piece that together. Some nice news report, academic decathlon. Came in 7th out of 13, we're moving on to state or to the national level, which will be an online format, rather than traveling down in Texas. So we're very excited about that. We had several medal winners there that competed. I'm very proud of them. We had a great performance with our wrestlers last week. States, out of the 5 that went. We had two that placed in the 1/3 and 1/5. And then the remainder of those still maintained within the top 10 place. But it was respectively, that's pretty awesome. I'll probably be leaving shortly, to go help at the musical. Once I'm summoned by one of the students, but That's again coming up this weekend, 17th, 18th, 19th, you know, that's in Mamma Mia, it's great. So I got pulled into playing a part in that, so I'll have to take that. Other than that, just kind of getting the beat of a year and beginning the planning stages for the graduation back there and all the driving to that for that. So digging into that. Also moving into the hiring process and some for some of the retirees as we move throughout the remainder of this year and trying to set the stage for the next.
Thank you.
Whatever song will be singing.
I will not be singing.
Mr. Hanner.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank two of our paraprofessionals. Joanne Reed worked as a special education paraprofessional with us, and we approved her resignation at the last board meeting. And then at this board meeting, Candy Lysenring, she worked as a Title I paraprofessional. Both of those employees work with our students. They both had positively impacted our students. And I just wanted to thank them for their time with us, working as paraprofessionals before as they move on to new opportunities for themselves. The My Bike program, the Black Intermediate Unit along with Variety Pittsburgh has been working together for the last 4 years to provide students with disabilities adapted bicycles, strollers, and a My Voice equipment, which is a communication device. So on March 7th, last Tuesday, I believe it was, at Penn College, the athletic field house, one of our students, Hayden Huffnagel, a first grader, was presented with a new adapted bicycle. There were several other students that were able to receive adapted bicycles along with strollers as well. And Haven was the lucky student that kind of led the adapted bicycle parade around the field house there and her new pink bike. And her family was very, very excited about this because she's never had a bicycle before. The parents have bicycles and the siblings have bicycles, and now this will give her the opportunity to ride along with them when they like to ride around their neighborhood. And then the last thing that I have here is we had Shane Loudenslager, who's an emotional support teacher, and Vanessa Lorson, one of our guidance counselors. Last week, they went to State College to be recertified in CBS. We had CBS trainers for our school district here. CBS Quality Behavior Solutions is a company that has de-escalation strategies as well as safe physical management training that they offer to staff. And this way, when students are in need or in crisis, we have teams within each one of our buildings that can respond to those situations. And Shane and Vanessa are able to do the training for our staff. So we already are scheduling 3 research trainings, which are 1-day trainings for our staff that have already gone through this. And then we have 1 2-day initial training for any new staff that are coming on board that will be going through this training as well. I just appreciate their willingness to continue to accept this responsibility and additional responsibility and getting trained and helping our staff out as well.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Mrs. Albert, are you gonna steal your boss's thunder or you got something for us? You're calling.
I think that all plan work. That started today. Students, the Builders Club, the fundraiser for them, so students bring in their pennies for homeroom, and then other grades can deduct the amounts they're making by putting silver coins or paper coins in the bins in the lunchroom. And then on Friday, whoever has the most money, the homeroom gets to choose which staff member gets duct taped to the wall. I'm not sure. Myron said, no, he's not getting tape.
A lot of that.
That's a lot of.
But
There you go. Really. Good. Thank you.
I'll let him.
We'll start down there at the end with either Mr. Blaze, the young fellow.
Couple limbo challenges and choreographed dances. They had a good time. Hopefully they got to sleep in Mrs. Shank and her band, Celtic Wood Wire, will be at our school Friday, put on two performances for, K1 and, K1, 2, and 3, 4. So kids are excited to see Mrs. Shank up there performing for them. Spring pictures are coming up on the 22nd. And other than that, Kate converted first grade and third grade, then she converted second on the 24th for national school bus, based on to that. So, other than that, much.
Thank you. Mr. King.
You're all aware of what happened when you stuff. I just want to point out, unfortunately, that happened.
Myers?
All right, a lot going on. Hopefully you had a chance to see Moana Junior, the musical there. It's a fantastic performance by students. Always engaging kind of well. They do for the middle school. Looking forward to this Friday, our 6th grade students are going to the PhD Capitol building and perform there, our choir members. And then we're going to meet Joe Ham there, the state representative, and he's going to give us a report of the Capitol. So kids are excited about that, that coming on. We have a couple different events coming up with the Student Council 3v3 tournament. Kids really love that. That's coming up there on the 24th. And then our masquerade ball, our dance is the 31st. So that's going to be rescheduled earlier date. I want to thank Mrs. Alda Brando and our core team from the call. Today we met our MTSS group, met to look at students, and we meet every month as the counselors, Mrs. Albert, myself, Mr. Ganner, and Mrs. Baker. And we look at students and the programs that we have, we know how engaging that is with the after school programs, their intramurals and the homework club. And all the things with our mentoring programs that we have. In my 10 years of looking at the list of students in need, it keeps dwindling. And I think it's where we continue to promote programs that are engaging and we need to continue to promote. Thank you to those 10 team members as well as teachers and staff for that. Lastly, I want to talk about the new science standards that are coming out. So Mr. Jury, Mrs. Erico, and Ms. Stauffer, we're in training to look at those. The acronym is called STEELS, Science, Technology, Engineering, Environmental Literacy, and Sustainability Studies. So we're actually looking at these new standards will come into effect in 24-25. And I guess the PSSA, the 4th grade PSSA is coming to 5th grade. So lucky, we're starting to look at our curriculum and how we can meet. So I think that's all.
Thank you. Mr. Farrar.
I never give PDE credit, but I'll give them credit on it. They don't usually deserve credit, so I'll give them credit on it. A lot of things going on with, like a lot of the other administrators mentioned, but on the 24th, we have some students going over to the Community Arts Center as well. A great resource that the Community Arts Center Foundation provides at no cost to districts. They pay for the performances. So again, it's good exposure for our students all across the county, but to see a variety of kind of programs and programming. Also that night, or because of the potential storm the other week, when their dance got postponed, so did our PTO book bingo. That's going to happen as well that evening. We'll get word out to families on that here this week. But the big elephant at Lighter is the new playground, and when, construction is going really well. The weather has not cooperated, and quite frankly, the factory, we're at the point where Joe and I talked today, majority of the construction is completed, but there's some pieces that the factory didn't say correctly that our installers, who are local and are fantastic, and really efficient and doing a great job, they need to get some of those spare pieces that are correct to make it operate safely and accurately. That should come here in the next week or so. And then they gotta, fix grading the ground and put some fresh mulch on. So, it'll be here soon. I keep telling the kids, I said about 2 weeks, but I said, one thing is I share with families, you just never know with weather or other kind of delays that happen with construction, but it's a big project. We're really gonna need the help of not only our students there, but our entire community, our older students take care of that. The board and, the PTO and community rep, the families have invested a lot of money in that, provide that for the community. We now, the students, help take care of it. So preserve and last a long time, like our last playground.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move on now. Sorry, Mr. Domina.
I actually have a couple additions.
Okay,
Comprehensive plan was submitted to PDE and that's now under review. That you approved last month. In addition, we have applied for the $75,000 dual enrollment grant. The primary goal of that grant, that was tricky. They gave you 3 days to say you were interested in applying. You had to fill out a form. And then you had a week and a half to actually do the grant after they sent you the link. So I'm hoping not too many districts caught on and we'll get a slice of this pie. But our primary focus is going to be to expand those offerings, have more students taking some dual enrollment opportunities. I know that's near and dear to Mr. Johnson's goals for the high school. So we're hoping to use some of that money, most of that money for that. So, and then finally, I'm happy to report that curriculum, we now have a full curriculum council in the district that met on February 27th. Fantastic conversation. We went through what the goals of this council is going to be. And one of the main goals is to create a process and system that is owned by the teachers. So as administrators cycle through curriculum positions or retirements come, that's in place for the teachers. It's a process that will be there for them. And then we can work towards getting our curriculum online for the public to see. Whether that legislation happens or not, our goal is to get something on the web for our public to view what we're teaching. And it will help so many other things. We do well in spite of not having it. But having it's going to make us that much better. So really excited about that. The group that's involved is excited, and we're going to meet again here at the end of the month. So that's all I have for tonight.
thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to the agenda items. So light agenda tonight. So we'll start out with the general items. I think we can block them together, G1 and G2. So if you take a peek at them and you're satisfied to group them, I'll entertain a motion to G1 and G2. Motion to approve. You have a second? Okay.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, have it. And for personnel, I do believe we can group P1 through P6 together as well. I don't. If you maybe need a separation, say, let us know, but otherwise, I think we can group them together. So with that in mind, take a peek at that and I'll entertain a motion to group P1 through P6.
Move to approve.
Okay.
Any questions?
P4, Dave, is that a substitute? That will fill in what, the two buildings, the elementary?
Yeah, the
buildings?
elementary, that's the doorkeeper, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we don't have doorkeepers at the high school and middle school.
Right.
Are we going to be evaluating that in the next budget year then?
think there was any intent to add
I just
gatekeepers.
recall when we had conversations about security. There were, I think, considerations that if we went with the armed security guards, the door security would go away. Especially in light of the fact that we have it at just 2 buildings versus 4. And that was going to be a way of helping manage the overall cost.
And I'd like to add to that. I remember when we hired the armed security, the reasoning behind keeping the door personnel, the unarmed people at door security was because of their interaction with the kids. Now we've had our armed security that we've been told that has good interaction with the kids. Do we need the extra to keep the people at the doors now? Because we do have our armed security with good interaction this year.
I've had the opportunity to interact over at the middle school. And yeah, I'm very impressed with the security officer there. And that is an area where we don't have anyone on the door.
Well, this, of course, is a sub, so this is for the balance of the year, just a substitute.
Right, and I'm not questioning that, but
Let's, as part of the budget discussions, let's do, between us discussing that as a means of saving money, plus administration weighing in on, you know, are there benefits beyond, you know?
Yeah. I'm just planting the seed
Yeah.
for when that
absolutely.
budget discussion comes, because my yes vote today no way reflects a vote into the future. So this is what I
Sure.
wanted to
All right,
make sure that was clear.
okay. Okay, if there's no other questions for the substitute position regarding it, and I guess all in favor of approving P1 through P6, say aye. Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Let's have it. And we have a T1 for transportation. Entertain a motion to approve that item. Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions on that? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's have it. And policy PY-1, the local board procedures, policy 006. We have a motion.
To approve.
We move a second on this first reading. And I guess let's for all of our sake, let's take a peek at that section that looks like the strike through may have extended a little further than it should have.
That's under,
And I'll tell you, my understanding of our posting of I always thought that this agenda item here is what we always posted, you know, minimum 3 days. And but the packet would follow up within 24 hours. I thought that was the procedure we're operating under. Apparently, I was misunderstanding. I knew we were going to have this published, you know, up there within 24 hours. I knew that we were doing that. I thought it was on a different timetable. So my misunderstanding for sure. But what page is that on?
And the district's been good about doing that on the Thursday before the meeting. Unless there's something extenuating circumstances, then it's usually till Friday, which still gives us
the 3 days.
gives us the 3 days.
It's no burden on us. The solicitor, had said you don't need to do that. 24 hours is the minimum, but it's no burden to us.
Right,
to do that.
and why,
Prepared for you, we can just post it. So
and why do just the minimum anyway, when the public needs to have time to go over it and decide, you know.
but the first reading would be approving sending it on to second reading like that. The second reading will come with that correction.
Can I just amend my motion to strike that?
You can't, you have to approve it like the first reading like that or table it.
Okay. Just as long as that, okay, we'll look for that to be taken out.
That's why we do the 2.
And that's on the agenda preparation section, item 1, there's the last 4.
But that doesn't go along with item 2 then,
That's
that
the law.
contradicts each other.
That's the law part of it, the minimum 24 hours.
Yeah.
But then I think that's why it was, I thought that was why it was struck out of number 1, because because you'd have to post it 3 days before, when number 2 says 24 hours. So it makes it very confusing to have those two timelines.
Well, the law says, if you don't do it by 24 hours, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
More or less.
I understand.
And
But it-
we're saying, and up above, we're saying, but we are gonna do it within 3 days. So they aren't contradicting, one's more stringent than the other. But it's sort of an inverse stringency. We can do what we want and be more generous, if you will. That's why we're gonna be at 3 days, as we have been doing.
Except the only thing I'm wondering, because now what's on the agenda is more stringent. Was the original rationale that the board would see it first, so if the board wanted anything added to the agenda, there was a brief period before it went public. Because now there's limitation on what can be added.
Once it's on Thursday, once it's put on the district's website. Anything after that, if it is added, has to be an amendment to the agenda. So
Okay,
it wouldn't change,
Then it would be supplemental.
okay,
Supplemental would have to be 24 hours.
right?
okay, so that doesn't affect, okay.
I like Dr. Berry's thought process though, because if we have to give it as a board 3 days before. And if we find something that isn't right or shouldn't be there. If everything's fine, we can post it, but to say that we absolutely have to post it at that point. If you're saying on number 1 that we're gonna do it 3 days, that's
Like
supersedes number
simultaneously,
2.
the public and the board,
So
though.
we get it on Thursday typically, and then it would have to go up Friday. At the latest, right? But, if there's an issue with an agenda though, when we come to the meeting, we table it. If it's something we can't act on, we just table it. And I don't. If we have an item that we want on the agenda, it's probably separate from the agenda anyway. We should be thinking about that many more days in advance of that if we want to add an agenda item.
And the law allows you to add it by majority vote.
Can we check with our solicitor though? Because I still think it's contradicting. We're saying one thing in 1 and another thing
He
in
will
2.
tell you keep the 24 hours and get rid of the 3 days. We've had that, he and I have had that exchange.
Yeah.
He would tell you stick to the requirement of the law, not add the additional burden of the 3 days. But it's not an additional burden. The public is used to having that.
And we have it
Early.
we get it sometimes 4 days, so.
Yeah.
So administration's already got the act together. So just for whoever shoves it up to the website, that's just punching a few buttons, logging in, logging out, whatever. So I don't see, if it's not a burden to administration. Hey, it's all good to me.
I understand that. I understand that's our intention and that's really good for us to do that. But once you put it on paper. Legally.
Well,
We just have a problem with it.
yeah, but once we have it, we already have a problem. Something's bad news,
Yeah.
it's a public, I think, it might be a public document then. Well,
No.
anyway, no, I'm for removing the strikeout on agenda preparation, item 1, removing those strikeouts for the next reading. I don't think we can remove it tonight. But for the next reading, the strikeout will be gone and we'll be running with that 3 day as our own self-imposed practice.
Now, the other strikeout right below that, any additions or changes, is that gonna be removed too?
That's removed.
Yeah, that means it's gone.
Okay, okay.
That section's gone.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't gonna change back to.
The law replaces what that section is.
Number 3 replaces that, right?
Which is a majority of them. You can put anything on there.
Yes.
That's the minimum, the minimum.
The what?
It still has to be the minimum. to place it on that.
No, you can place, the law cancels itself out at the end. And lets you as a board, if you want to do a $500,000 earth replacement. You can come to the meeting, and if you have 6 votes to get that on the agenda. Or 5, I think that might only be 5. It can move forward for a vote.
Right.
So if you have majority vote, put something on the agenda, you still can do that. That's what the law allows for. So it cancels itself out at the end.
And that's one of the new changes that the law made.
Yes.
Yeah.
The intent was to keep that from happening at all, and then they added that
Right.
at the end, which allows it to happen.
Because is that under majority vote that you're saying?
Yep.
For now?
They may add a matter of business to the posted agenda by a majority vote of the school director, present and voting. Then, once that's announced, approved, you can then take action on that item.
This is really confusing.
Yes,
It really is,
Yes.
because right above that, it talks about it has to be minor in nature.
yes, it
And
does.
it doesn't say anything about whether it has to be minor or not minor under majority vote.
That is directly from the law.
Actually,
Yep.
directly from the law.
Yes.
That statement undoes the law.
Well, it does hold board members accountable to actually do, I don't want to say do something draconian, but you'd have to vote on it to add it. Adding an agenda item is another matter, but voting to add something that wasn't there within 24 hours, that's all. It is kind of, I don't, yeah, that's the law, whatever. All right, well, in our second reading, that section 1, first paragraph, that last sentence will be, the strikeout will be gone, and that will be in the second reading. So, okay, all right. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And with that, we'll move to committee reports.
Okay, PSBA, that lovely, colorful poster on the principles of governance and leadership. I'll read for a little bit. So after the meeting, before everyone leaves, if you could please add your John Hancock to the bottom, and they will frame this and put it up. It's at our last meeting. Okay. I'll put it here with the pen. Other than that, with PSBA, they're busy with their April meetings, sectional meetings. Again, there's 3 of them, April 4th, 12th, and 13th. They are in person at 4 different places each. And if you are interested, that's on psba.org. Advocacy Day on April 18th is now only virtual. Going down the road, but it's all virtual. And if you're interested in that, you can register on PSBA as well. Policy Committee.
Nothing at this time.
Dr. Beery, are you?
2 things. I might have mentioned this in passing before, but the IU Technology Services now offers some neat school security things. They have something where if any internal or external doors are propped open or forced open, it immediately texts and emails designated people, which is an immediate response, which I thought was interesting. We might want to keep their services in mind. And they donated a book for the library. I think last year it went to the Valley, so this year maybe it goes to Leiter. From the organization Michaela's Voice is for inclusiveness for people with disabilities. And their insignia is a ladybug with a yellow spot. So they donated that book.
Cool. Thanks. No, DC, Mr. President.
Yeah, I gave at the end of the last meeting, I gave an update on that, the construction project. And and not to go through the whole thing again, but it's a process that will be pretty well stretched out over time. There's nothing that ties into what the East Lycoming School District's doing at their schools. I thought initially that there was some interplay between, there isn't. If the CTC is going to do anything, it's standalone from what East Lycoming is doing on their buildings. One of the big things, one of the big bugaboos is that the funding for the projects is it's divided by equally amongst the districts, no matter how many students you send. And we talked about that at the last meeting, and they understand the 2 or 3 smaller schools that are sending fewer students understand that will be rewritten when the agreement between the sending schools is we're shooting for the summer we're actually overdue on it, but we're shooting for the summer to re-sign and recommit to another 10 years for all the sending districts. Part of that contractor agreement as it is now says how you'll fund construction project. Well, that'll be based on a student attendance proportionality, not based on divided up between, 5 or 6 schools. One of the other things we're trying to move towards is before we sign a new agreement between the sending schools is to have a Benton School District incorporated into it. So it would be a 6 school CTC. So we're working on that. So as far as any construction project, it's down the road, and I'll be getting a PowerPoint that I'll be sending out to you folks next week or 2.
How far down the road are you talking?
It might be a different person sitting here by the time the board ever talks about it again.
Well,
that's
I'm just saying, how have they given any indication when they want to start?
Yeah.
And what's is there any dollar amount yet?
There are various options. There are. But it's tied into what each sending school would pay. Right now, it's 1/5 or
Right.
But that would change radically for Montoursville based on our only sending 25 to 30 kids. So it'd be a whole different share. Honestly, I don't see any serious discussion happening till after the turn of the year. I really don't.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is we had our own project that was put on hold because of interest rates, because of material costs. And so
let's just say the interest is tepid amongst all the members, cautious, tepid, the board members are, okay, it's, I won't say it's not sitting well, but it's like with us, that's why I just don't see anything happening for a while. We'll continue to talk about it, but I don't see anything happening.
Well,
The amounts vary based on the size of the project they choose to.
Yeah.
right, but I don't care whether it's only a $5 million project. If they're borrowing $5 million, the way the interest rates are, I can't see us as our representative saying, "Oh, that's okay," because
Back to the whole board.
Oh, yeah.
well, either way, I can't see us agreeing to it when we put off for our own school
Right.
for those reasons.
Well, that's the thinking of, especially the schools that are one of the schools that good way into their project, and other than finishing up theirs. They're not particularly interested in engaging in anything new. I'm kind of wet blanket mode on it myself. So that's why it'll be an ongoing discussion, which is okay, but I don't know that it's going to go anywhere.
Okay.
But the only thing I can see is that the one program that really could stand a little space would be the automotive. They're right there next to,
involved in plating on it.
I saw that it made it in the paper. The renovations for Memorial Garden.
But we are still accepting donations and I didn't get a report tonight, but I will get it soon.
Okay, yeah. Anything on budget?
No.
Building and grounds, Mr. Albert?
Yeah, I, had a couple of people asking about our doors, Joe. Is the deal with the whole doors, the closures, is it not operating correctly, not?
I mean, like, lighter,
Well, just in general, I mean, are we looking at having to replace?
I did get some quoting, from a couple companies, and that's gonna be heading to the board and administration here, hopefully soon. Just didn't say anything yet, we don't know.
Right. Is it more of a closure issue? Is it
It's more of the whole.
system, the whole door? I've had a couple of people mention it.
Believe it or not as many as Valley, lighter specs.
Right. Right. No, I'm not asking it because I don't think you're not working on it. I'm just, just trying to get the information. Okay. All right, thank you, that's it.
Okay, Mr. Badger's not here for extracurricular, so that's it.
Okay. Move now to the next public comment section of the meeting. Again, residents and taxpayers comment on matters of official action or any deliberation before the board. That 3-minute unpaused time frame to speak to us.
I was just gonna tell you, when you get down there to Harrisburg, relate to the kid, our capital here in Pennsylvania, it's like capital of the United States, similar. Eddie Murphy did a movie down there where they had to change the license plates and some other stuff with DC. He did a movie right there, and you could ask Joe Ham, maybe he could get you a flag that flew over the cap too. Sometimes they give them out, well, they did in the old days, I mean, real old days, but and some stuff, I agree. It was a flag. Yeah, and then I 48 stars still in it. No, I'm just saying. Yeah, it's too bad you can't, it would be good for your kids. I mean, visit the Civil War Museum down there. It mostly deals with slavery, but it's in Reservoir Park. It's called Reservoir Park, and it's worthwhile. I mean, to a point, I like it when it shows soldiers from the north and south dancing with one another after this war was over. They had real film in that, so I don't know, and I think it's going to be worthwhile. Yes, absolutely. And I'd like to know how much that the concert over here. What do you have to go through a computer to get your tickets, or can you buy your tickets at the door?
I'm at the window.
At the window?
Yep.
Good.
This is just a comment to make all you principals and administrators aware of a opportunity for kids who are really interested in art from grades 5 to 12. There is a student art and display show being sponsored by Lycoming County Patriots, Saturday, May 6th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I have information if you principals who cover this age group of kids would want one. I think it'd be really worthwhile to allow the kids to display their art to the community. There would be opportunities for them to sell things if they have enough in their supply to sell. But I think it gives the community a really good opportunity to see what kind of talent is coming up through our school system. So I have these. If you want some, you can get some after the meeting.
What day is that, Tina?
It's May 6th. It's a Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And the contact information is on here, and more details will be coming out as you contact the sponsors. Okay.
Thank you.
Nelson is up. Hi, Brenda.
Brenda Oberheim, Woodland Court. My question is the curriculum committee. Who's on it and what curriculum is currently being worked on?
Tired. We need to map it. It's not mapped.
And you-
They,
Well, I remember before you were curriculum coordinators / assistant superintendent, there were teachers that made up a curriculum that were supposed to work on curriculum. So is that somewhat, that wasn't
We
the
haven't-
case? Yeah, it's been a while, but then we were without a curriculum coordinator for a long time. Okay,
Yeah.
how long have we been with? Mhm.
There's been teachers worked on that. We haven't had a K-12 district-wide count.
Like an overhaul, so,
7 years. But it's not an over, we need to first get a snapshot of what we're doing.
yeah.
But that's the purpose of it.
And who works on that? It's not
It's going to be
teachers?
teachers.
It will be teachers.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to map out what it is they do throughout the year. Connect that with standard. And then we need to examine that to see where overlaps are and we had a lot of subjects heavily.
Yeah.
Multiple times, so. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
You know, I mean, yeah, curriculum committee is parent or great parent.
Right now, it's teachers as we,
Oh, my
yeah,
name-
so.
So I was interested in the curriculum committee.
And I know that. And so I was curious when you brought it up, if there's, ways that parents can get involved.
There will be, we need to get a baseline of where we're at. And then we'll expand it there. Pardon? Me, yeah. Antonina, yeah.
Oh, something else I wanted to mention, Tina and the Patriot Art Show, as well, like Plumbing Law Association, I know civic teachers in the district are aware of Law Day. The deadline for that is March 31st this year, posted from Lycoming Law. The topic this year will be civic civility and collaboration. And it talks about how we each have our own individual voice and how we are collaborating. So the information is available on Lycoming Law. The deadline for that is March 31st, as I mentioned. There will be a celebration at the Lycoming County Courthouse on May 12th, the Friday at 4 p.m. Last year, there was a very poor showing from many districts in the county. We're hoping that we could revitalize that program for our kids in our county. So please kind of send the information.
What kind of celebration?
They have a courthouse where they can judges come in, they bring some of the attorneys that have, they come up with the agenda for it. If the kids present in front of the courtroom to the parents. They get patch awards. They need canine dogs, they need to celebrate things. So it's a great experience that we had the opportunity to do last year, so I would like to promote that to a wider audience. Thank you very much.
We shared that with the people who did get,
Great.
so we're hoping to have a much better showing this year.
Glad to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And not seeing anybody else kept from in the room here, we'll go out online to the attendees online. If you want to speak to us, raise your hand and. Not seeing anybody online raise their hands, so we'll close this portion of the public comment section of the meeting and move on to adjournment, but is there anything for the good of the order that we should be looking to next month, perhaps, or the next meeting, or if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
motion, do we have a second? Did I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.